Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JKWD podcast. I don't know where that voice came from.
I don't know.
I'm not as constipated as I sound. We're doing fine in that area, and we went to poop in the first 15 seconds. I'm sorry.
You did. Maybe you were just so energized by the conversation by the guest we just finished.
Yeah, it was all. I think my body heard about the food and the coffee, and
that could have been it. Just obsessive. Just overtook your mind.
Yeah, something. Anyway, we're gonna have a great show. We talked to Matt Javit from Passport Joy. He and his wife Nikki have taken a few years off of professional life to go travel the world, and they're doing some blogging and some podcasting, and they recently launched a docuseries on YouTube about the barbershop experience in a bunch of different places. So plenty for you to catch up on. We'll have all the links to that in the show notes at jkwdpodcast.com. But first, we should tell you that we're brought to you by Audible. audibletrial.com/jkwd for your free audiobook, your free month at Audible. You can text JKWD to 500-500, and they will shoot you that link quick so that you don't have to type it into your smartphone browser. You could, I don't know, if you're interested in traveling around the world with a backpack, you could get Vagabonding by Rolf Potts. It's a possibility. Kelvin, you got a book?
I do. And after talking to this gentleman for a long time, this man's got a lot of energy for life, and some really good stories coming up. Don't let that whole barbershop thing make you think it's going to be a boring episode.
Yeah, no. I just looked at the clock for the first time, and we've run about an hour and 25 with him.
Yeah, that's a great conversation coming up. But anyway, The book I have to recommend is called The Energy Bus, 10 Rules to Fuel Your Life, Work, and Team with Positive Energy. And I got to tell you, this man is a positive energy guy. And I think that you're going to be absolutely enthralled with this conversation. And, hey, get the book to keep up.
That's right. So again, that's audibletrial.com/jkwd, or text JKWD to 500-500. Get your free audiobook, your free month at Audible. jkwdpodcast.com for show notes for this and all the other episodes, but we'll have links to all the stuff we talk about here with Matt. And with that, maybe we'll stop talking and play some music, and on the other side of it, you'll hear our conversation with Matt Javit.
See you in a minute.
Welcome to the Josh and Kelvin World Domination Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Where on this planet are we finding you tonight?
Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
I've heard that's a very nice place.
Yeah, it's been nice. We actually leave tomorrow. We go to Singapore tomorrow.
Okay.
We've been here 8 days. We like it. It grew on us a little bit. There's very, very, very nice areas because there's a lot of money here. Mm-hmm. And we're staying in a more authentic neighborhood where it's close to the culture. A lot of awesome markets. There's some street entertainment over the weekends. It was a lot of fun, and yeah, so it's been cool. We've got a nice mix of everything.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Nice. And how does that compare to where you've been recently? Am I getting the timeline right? Were you like Japan to Thailand to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So Europe through the summer, 6
Mhm.
weeks in Japan. We just spent 2.5 weeks in Thailand, and now we're doing this whole Southeast Asia thing for about the next 5 months.
Wow.
So comparatively speaking, man, Japan's out of this world. It's awesome. I mean, it's from what we've seen, it's the most comparable to the U.S. from like an infrastructure way of life type thing, but very different with their traditions and they're super kind, loving, gentle people. It was really nice to be there for as long as we had.
Oh, nice.
Great.
Well, that sounds exciting.
But just by way of introductions, how do you people ask you who you are and what you do? What do you tell them?
Okay, so yeah, I'm Matt Javit. Currently, I am traveling the world with my wife out of a backpack. We decided to pack up and leave in February 2017 after about almost a year of planning and about 4 or 5 years of dreaming about it. We finally made it happen almost 20 months ago. So that's currently, I guess my label would be a traveler, but also kind of a publisher as we're trying to work into some creative projects that we never had time to do in our corporate lives. Because I was in corporate America for 9 years as a technology sales professional, and my wife was a clinical pharmacist. So we had kind of those traditional jobs back home, and then we just being married now. We've been married for 13 years. We had a lot of dreams and goals together, and this was one of them, to be able to take a kind of a mid-career, midlife gap and go see what the world had to offer. And after a lot of planning and goal setting, we made it happen.
Awesome.
How did you kind of pick where you were going to hit, or is that something that's kind of in flux all the time?
Yeah, it's we wanted to follow the sun because we only have one backpack apiece, 46-liter backpack. You can't really pack winter clothes, so we knew that we wanted to follow the sun the whole time. So we've been doing that. We were typically in summer, spring weather wherever we are, and that's so we started in South America, worked our way through Southern Europe, 2 months in India, then went to Vietnam, South Africa during their summer, our winter, and then went back to Europe, and then now we're in Japan, and now we're back in Southeast Asia, where it's staying very good warm climates.
Cool. One of the things that we talk about is goals, but one thing that goes with goals is planning, and this is something that you seriously had to plan. I mean, you had to deal with savings. You had to figure out if savings were starting to run low, how to make some money on the road. You had to deal with where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. How much planning do you do, and how much can you leave to chance and still not feel like you were lucky to get out of it?
Yeah, we I guess on a big level, getting up to the trip, there was obviously a lot of goal setting, and we understood what kind of budget we're going to need, and what we thought. We've actually adjusted and are working on a smaller budget than we thought, based on scaling back some things. But when it comes to the day to day and what we're currently doing, a lot of it is we look out as far as we want to, or that we're comfortable doing. Mm-hmm. And then like right now, we're actually booked on paper through January. We know where we're going over the next 3 months. We know what's coming up soon. But there's been times where we stay as flexible as we can month to month. And we still attempt to leave some flexibility as far as the things that we're doing, but as far as like accommodation and things like that, because we knew that we wanted to kind of help solidify our budget a bit in these next few months. Mm-hmm. Because Europe was expensive, Japan was expensive, and we know that now that we're in Southeast Asia, this is a chance for us to save some money. So by booking the things that we have and booking them out a little bit and not being last minute, then it secures and it keeps our costs down as far as we can. So we attempt to be flexible. We've had times in our trip where we've called audibles and just said, hey, let's go over here instead and do something more flexible. When we went to Japan, we were there. We knew we were going for 6 weeks, but we didn't know exactly where we were going to be for those 6 weeks until about, probably 3 or 4 days before we landed in Tokyo. We knew we were going to land in Tokyo. We knew we were going to fly out of Tokyo. But those 6 weeks moving around, I had a buddy in the States that lived there for 5 years. We were leaning on him big time, but we hadn't really booked everything until about 3 days before we hit Tokyo. And then we solidified everything. So it's been pretty fluid. And Nikki and I will have conversations on it, like, what do we want to see? Where do we want to go? And then as far as like, now that we're in this area of the world, Bali was real high on our list. We knew we want to spend some time in Bali. I'm anxious to go to Angkor Wat in Cambodia, see those ruins. So those were places that we had to go see, based on our own hot list. And that's how we kind of just talk through it. And then depending upon flight prices, we look at flight prices. Does it make better sense to leave on this Monday or this Wednesday? And then we just try to find the best ways to keep all the costs down, and then find Airbnbs or cheap accommodations to make everything work out.
How about day to day? Are you kind of scripted as to what's going on, or do you get a lot of time to just explore?
A lot of it, especially now, is weather dependent, because we're caught up in a lot of these storms over here. So if we get a nice day, we had 2 typhoons when we were in Japan. So if we get nice days, then we'll definitely go explore, go try to go see some markets, walk around town. We love to walk around town. That's the best way to see things and meet people. Or I'll use different apps as well, like meetup.com, to try to find out what's going on in towns and go meet with some locals and talk about some things. But yeah, it's day to day. Like when we're if we schedule things that we know that's on paper, like we've got a travel convention coming up. This is the first time we're doing something like that. So we know what those 3 days are going to look like. We're going to go talk to some travel folks and see what's happening in Asia around travel. But if it's a week where, like in Kuala Lumpur, these last 8 days, essentially we've had an open schedule. We know we had to work on some things because we've got kind of the content commitments that we have. So we have to produce some things there. But we just came off of 2 straight weeks with my buddy and his wife in Thailand. So we've been kind of partying for a couple of weeks we had a vacation within a vacation. So we got back to kind of our grind. I mean, full transparency. This is a blessing. We're living an unbelievable life, but our version of a grind is what we had to get back to in order to produce stuff for the blog and podcast and stuff like that.
Mm. So I'm sitting here going, how does one even conceive of this plan of moving, going around the world like you're doing? Like, I mean, I'm envisioning mountains and mountains and mountains of money. You're being funded by, I don't know who's funding you, but how does one even get to do this?
Well, so we worked really hard I was in technology sales. My wife's a clinical pharmacist. So once we worked through student loan debt, we started saving, and we're working on our savings. And full transparency, I've said in other blogs, or other podcasts, our monthly budget is $4,000 a month. So based on $4,000 a month and the length of time that we're trying to travel, that's the budget that we're working off of. We're not making money on the road. Some of the things that we're doing, we're hoping to monetize. But essentially, we're not. Those are more investments into ways that we are improving ourselves. I'm real big on self-improvement, as is my wife. So these things are helping us get better with storytelling. With storytelling, that converts into anything that you're going to do in life, whether it's sales or anything. So what the things that we're working on from a creative standpoint, we're looking at them as investments in ourselves, and but potential ways to become monetized in the future if they continue to pick up steam and we gather a following, and then we can make money that way. But we're working off of savings, man. And that's what it is. It's just that's why that we know when the end is on paper. But if we can figure out a way to stay on the road a little bit longer, we're going to maybe try to do that. But at the end, we always looked at this as a gap, a way to because we're healthy. We love traveling together. We love being together. it was a way that it worked in our lives to take 2 or 3 years to do something that not many other people have an opportunity to do, based on all the things that are working in our life's favor, if that makes sense. So at the end of this, I could end up going back to what I was, not the exact job, maybe I could, but I go back to selling technology. She goes back to being a clinical pharmacist, and then we just look back on three amazing years where we saw the world.
Wow. So how long have you been married?
13 years.
13 years. And
yeah.
Wow, really? Oh man, okay, write a book on how to stay married for 13 years. I'll buy that sucker, right? I've been married 3 times, and I've had some good experiences, but you're traveling the world with a single person that you've been married to for 13 years, and you guys aren't killing each other.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? What's up with that? I'm buying that book. Just write it. It's.
No, I know it. And what's crazier is, because we've met a lot of couples on the road, and we've met people on the road. If no matter what relationship you're in, when you travel together, that it takes it times 10, because you are on top of each other all the time. So we see a lot of couples that we meet on the road, and they're 3 or 4 days in their vacation, and it's no longer fun. They're at each other, they're annoyed, and they're ready to go back to work because they just don't want to be around each other. Nikki and I, we traveled a bunch before. That's what helped us get the travel bug, is because we had an opportunity. Some of it was through my success in my job. I got a chance to go on a few 5 really cool trips around the world, and Nikki was there with me to experience that. And then we mixed in travel on our own to places like Brazil and Argentina and Panama, the country, and Croatia. So we knew that we loved to travel together. We knew we could do it well. Now this is totally different, because we would always go back to our lives. But there were adjustments we had to make early on, because we had to give each other space and to understand that. Because again, at home, you've got rooms, you've got multiple rooms.
Right.
On the road, we're in the same room most of the time. And so we have to find ways, whether it's me going out and discovering the city on my own by foot, or going to work out, her having her nose in a book, me doing computer stuff, whatever it is to create that space, even if we're still close in a proximity, but we're just doing our own thing. That's important, so we can stay sane together, for sure.
Wow. And you've been doing this for how long now? For 3 years?
No, 20 months. We've been on the road for 20 months now. Yeah.
Wow. Hats off to you.
Thank you. Yeah.
and
yeah.
her.
Absolutely.
You got to be amazing people. So your communication has to be stellar.
It's on point. It's got to be one of those things where you don't go to bed mad, because you wake up mad at somebody that you have to be around for the next 24 hours. It's not fun. So a lot of it is just the understanding of, like, we're in this together. Let's make the most of it. We do fight. We're human, so we have those. But then we try to work through them as quickly as we can, just understanding the consequences and just trying to make the most of everything. So we are fortunate with each other. I got very lucky, and to have somebody that is on the same page with my passions and my goals, and it's been my biggest fan. I'm her biggest fan. It's we're extremely lucky to be on this path together.
Absolutely. So write the marriage book, okay? That monetize that, buddy.
That's funny. That's a good idea, though. That might be something.
It is. How to stay married when traveling neck and neck for 3 years or something. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Love it.
Thank you.
How much research do you do ahead of time on the places that you go in?
I think it depends. I think it's more, Nikki's great at discovering the things we need to see and digging in. I'll probably look more at some of the history on what the location offers from a more of a cultural standpoint. Mm-hmm. And then we share notes that way. We'll look at things and share notes and say, like, and then I'll say, like, hey, I really want to go check out this neighborhood. And she's saying, let's go look at this neighborhood. But I would say enough to make it intriguing, but not too much that it becomes overwhelming and not ruins it, but kind of, it makes it so you go in with a perspective when you want to still kind of be open-minded a little bit.
Mm-hmm. It leaves room for discovery.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, do you do this sort of research like, hey, you know, here it might not be safe for Americans. Here it might not be safe for a woman to travel on her own.
Yeah, there's some of that. Again, but it's we do that before we choose. So
Okay.
yeah, we limit. There's been places we've avoided, but there's been places where we've actually gone, and then after the fact, information comes our way that we're like, damn, I did not know it was that scary there. For instance, South Africa now, we spent 3 months in South Africa, January through March this year. And the locals would tell you on a regular basis how unsafe it is. We never felt too uncomfortable. There were a few instances where you just got to watch your back. You got to make sure you know what you're doing. I'm a big hiker. I like to go on hikes by myself. Some of the people were saying was like, Matt, you don't want to do that. It's crazy. And just, not that this matters, but I am 6'6", 225. I'm a bigger person. So it, sometimes that gets foggy in my head because I've had to deal with things in the past, but, never threatening as we've traveled, thank God. So I always go about like trusting humankind and trying to do the best. But there were people that were telling us when we were in South Africa, like, dude, you should not do that. Be careful. But after we had left, we spent 3 amazing months there. Always never had any issues at all. But then after we were gone, information came our way. My apologies. I'm not sure if you can hear that.
Yeah, it's all right.
You can't hear that. Sorry. I didn't know how to end it.
Yeah, you're in demand. That's a good thing.
Yeah, no.
Traveling, they can still find you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's wild. I don't even know where that's coming from. Okay, but just to pick back up. But after leaving South Africa, and then information came our way. It is insanely dangerous there now. And it's from a murder. There's also a big rape culture, but the murder rate was much higher than we anticipated. Now that we see different facts that it's top 4 in the world from a murder rate. So many people would say like, whoa, you should not go there. But we went there and we had an amazing time. We never felt threatened. And it is a gorgeous, gorgeous country. Amazing coastline. I went deep sea fishing. I walked on the coastline. We got to go to safari. We got to do all these amazing things that you can't really do. You can't do a bounce of all those anywhere else in the world. And I actually wrote a long blog post about how it's a guy's trip heaven. There's so many things that guys can do there. If you took 3 or 4 of your buddies and went somewhere, South Africa is amazing because it has so much to offer, just from a coolness factor of all the different things they have. But later this information came out, and it's still hard because a lot of places you read it and you're like, man, is this real? Is it really that high? But it was one of those places. In hindsight, I was like, man, it may have been that dangerous, but we really never felt it when we were there for those 3 months. And it's still a place where a lot of travelers destined to go, and as they should, because Cape Town's we had a chance to go to Cape Town for 4 or 5 years, 2 years. I'm sorry, a year before we made the decision. It helped us make the decision because the beauty of Cape Town is like nowhere in the world. And it's just this gorgeous setting. It's like Denver on the ocean with the mountains and the views. So yeah, I guess that's a long way to answer your question, but it's we've only felt unsafe a couple of times, and some of the places that we felt really safe were places that we shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, to put that in perspective, here in the U.S., we talked to somebody who opened a school in Chicago, which I mean, you're from Indianapolis, you're not far from there. It's as far as the U.S. goes, a very high murder rate, but people go there all the time, and
absolutely,
either they don't get shot or they, if they get murdered, they come out fine.
Yeah. Nikki's from Chicago, and this is
want to meet that one.
Yeah. and this is these are things, these are conversations that we have, because as we talk to people around the world and you get an understanding of their perspective on what they know of America, it's different, because when you see headlines, because that's the weird thing about media in general, you typically only see headlines from other countries when it's extremely negative.
Right.
You're never seeing a headline that says Indian man wins 10 million rupee lottery and now is going to open up a school for the underprivileged. You don't see those things. You only see like flood in Kerala, India, or huge disaster in Bangladesh. That's the only way that you see geography around the world, is when negativity is there. So as we travel, it's interesting to see when we talk to people that have never been to America, but they know our pop culture better than I know it. They know all the celebrities and the movies, they know music, but then they'll have points of view on school shootings and big shootings and a lot of killings. So they have a viewpoint as well of, man, America might be dangerous because of all the things that are going on there. And it's crazy to think that, because the things that we read about other places, and our families are still like, you want to go there? Are you sure you're going there? And it's, but it's like, are you sure that people will want to come to your neighborhood and be around your city? Because it's dangerous too. And there's always there's danger and there's safety all around the globe, and it's a matter of how you take it in. But I promise you, from my perspective, the world is so safe, and it's getting safer and safer. Technology continues to help us in so many ways, and it's extremely easy now to travel, but you just feel safe along the way as well.
Yeah, I'm a big law of attraction guy, and part of that says if you're not concentrating on that and you're not inviting it into your presence, it won't show up. So it sounds like you have a beautiful view of the world, and those are the things that are attracted to you, and not some of the trash that's in the news. So perhaps that is to your benefit, your view of the world and the beauty in it, because that's what you see, that's what you find, that's what you attract.
I'm a huge fan of that. My only physical book that I brought with me, I'm a big reader, but all of it's digital except for my only physical book, is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And a lot of that attraction, a lot of the things that guys like Tony Robbins talk about today is based on that literature. And
absolutely,
it's a way of, and you got to remind yourself, because it is a practice, and negative thoughts creep in all the time. And but you got to remember, like, if you let your mind become negative, you will become negative. You are the world that you want to build through your mind. And that's, to your point, I try to make it as positive as possible, and try to go about life that way.
Awesome. So what's been your most exciting adventure so far?
There's probably a few that stand out. So I'm a big sports nut. So I've had a chance to see amazing. We did sumo wrestling in Tokyo, Muay Thai fighting in Thailand. We saw these motorcycle races around the island of Isle of Man in Ireland that were bananas. But when it comes to I'm more into I love being around people. So we did a wedding in India. We did 2 weddings in India, and to be around multi-generational families in a big setting like that, and for them to welcome us and take us in the way that they did was tremendous. That's something I'll probably remember for the rest of my life. Lisbon, Portugal. If there's probably a place that I love, it's Lisbon, Portugal. Really opened up my mind. It's just such a fun city, and it's cost friendly. There's a ton to do, and they're extremely inviting. Vietnam as a country is just amazing, and we're going to go back and spend some more time there. But they're very inviting. The dollar goes a long way there, and they've got gorgeous beaches. Nikki and I love to be close to the water and the sun, and so those really play to us, and the people and the food, the culture and the food. So yeah, those are probably some of the highlights. Those places. I know there's a ton more, man. I just I can list them. But yeah, it's been fantastic.
Wow.
So you've got the blog and you've got the podcast and you've got a new YouTube series. How, I mean, have you been able to rely on having internet wherever you go at this point? Is that a challenge sometimes?
Yeah, it is a challenge. And there's been, I wouldn't say stressful, because our level of stress on getting something uploaded is not the level of stress I used to have if I'm trying to close a deal or something. But we've had stressful situations where you just can't grab it. You just can't grab Wi-Fi, or you're uploading something and then you spend 45 minutes trying to upload it, and then you check it and it got canceled out because the Wi-Fi killed itself. So yeah, we've had those. But that said, I'm proud to say that Nikki and I, we've done a show a week for over. We're posting our 35th episode this week. So to do that in our limited amount of things that we have in our backpack and shady Wi-Fi around the world, it's really cool. It's been fun to do that, and to partner with her in the process to kind of do that and is learn the process. Like we're not public speakers. We don't do these things. And for us to stretch ourselves in that way to do it, it's been a lot of fun. And now you're talking down with the YouTube series. That's another creative adventure that I really didn't think, that inspiration just came to me in a barber chair one time. And I was like, I think we should do this. And we brainstormed through it. And it was one of those things where I'm real big at not having regrets. And it was one of those things where I was like, man, if we don't do this, I'm going to have a regret. So we just talked to them like, let's make it happen. So, and that's something that when it comes to the video, like making videos and recording that, when we left this thing, I would have never thought that would be something that we'd attempt to do. But we're trying to do it, and it's getting some positive reviews right now.
Awesome. Yeah, let's talk about that series for a little bit. So you're doing a docu-series on getting a haircut, a beard trim, a neck shave, wherever you go. How's that been?
Yeah, so it's so what I guess how it came about was I had been to all these crazy places getting these amazing haircuts, and I always knew it was fun and it was exciting. It was something I could do on my own. Like you guys talked about, we're on top of each other. So I would give me a chance to get out of the house wherever and just go and venture off on my own and find a barber shop and get a haircut or a beard trim or get my beard shaved up or whatever. But we were in Bucharest, Romania, and I did just that. I went out. It had been a few weeks since I got a cut. I was feeling a little bit shaggy. And while I was in the chair, the gentleman in Romania spoke good English so we could have a proper conversation. And he was just asking me. He was really intrigued by my travel. And but we started talking about the barber chair and my experiences. And as I was telling him all the crazy things that I had been going through, whether it be like the dudes in Vietnam blasting rap music really loud while I was getting my haircut, or the small, tiny blades that the guys in Chile were using to edge me up. Basically just taking the single blade out of the box and going straight to my skin. Mm-hmm. It just, as I was explaining these different things to him, I could tell by the way I was explaining it that I had passion behind it. And it was exciting to me. And then to see his response as a barber and as somebody that likes travel, we had this amazing conversation for like 7 or 8 minutes. And then the cool thing about a barber chair is all you have to do is just sit there and think, right? When you're in a barber chair, all you do is think. So then the next 25 minutes when this guy we'd have conversations off and on, but as I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm like, man, maybe I should do something with this. And so I went back and told Nikki, and I was like, I think I got an idea. I think if I told stories about barbershops around the world, I think my buddies back home would love it. And I think other dudes around the world would like something like this, so they get a chance to look into a barber chair, because it's something that guys like to do. And you don't even think about like how they cut hair in India, or how they cut, how do they cut hair in Thailand? Is it the same? And then once you get a chance to see, it's not even close to the same. It's a different experience in all these different cultures. Then it gets intriguing. And then to be able to like put on top of that the cultural aspect and be able to tell kind of a story of the things that we're doing and be able to relay that back home to help Because the big thing to me is there's a lot of there's still fear. There's like we talked about earlier. There's this fear mentality of what you read, that you think the world is dangerous. And if I can some way help people, because I just love travel so much, because I know what it's done to my life. If I can in some way inspire somebody to say, like, look, it's not as bad as what we're being told it is. It's actually really nice and inviting. If we can tell a story that helps people go to Osaka, Japan, and experience what's there, or Zurich, or wherever, Tallinn, Estonia, that we're putting on video now, that if we can do that, then that's going to be awesome.
So what's it been like for you to kind of lose that alone guy time now that you got Nikki standing there with the camera trying to squeeze yourself into a corner?
Yeah, no, it is. It was something that, as I was thinking about the idea, I was also thinking about that selfishly. Like, this is one of the times I get to do on my own. But yeah, it's still cool, because again, it's another project, and to see her get outside of herself. I mean, she's very science-minded. She's a clinical pharmacist, heavily educated, awesome. And just through this process, to see how amazing she's been. And then now I'm asking her to put an iPhone in her hand and squeeze into small spots and put the camera in the barber's face. Because all I get to do, I just sit back and relax and enjoy the event. And she's been amazing, man. So to be able to experience that, it has adjusted my time in the chair, but I think it's for a good thing. So it's a little bit different.
How's your what's the time in the chair like when you have a communication barrier, when you have a language barrier? You said the guy in Bucharest spoke pretty good English, but the guy, it looks like the folks in Japan didn't speak any English.
Yeah.
And you were, particularly in Japan, you were in those chairs for a long time.
Yeah, that's true. It changes everything. It really does. It changes because the barber client relationship is a cool one. I can remember the first time I heard about Bitcoin was from my barber, Matt, back in Indianapolis. He was the first dude that told me about Bitcoin. I was like, "What are you talking about, brother?" And he's like, "Bitcoin, man, you can trade money online." I'm like, stop. What, don't, I was like, invest in Apple or something. What are you talking about? But yeah, so the barber client relationship is real. It's awesome. But with our situation and jumping around anyway, it's not like I'm going to have a good relationship. But when you can't even really talk about sports or even have anything to build rapport, body language becomes real important really fast. Like I said, I'm a bigger guy, so when they first meet me, I can be a little bit intimidating, but I try to work through that as quickly as I can for them to understand that I'm a nice guy. And then if we can just change niceties in some capacity to kind of just feel comfortable around each other, then I can begin to ask questions if they have any broken English. If there's no language at all, then it's more of me just taking in the experience, going through the process, watching the room, because that's a lot of the stuff I enjoy anyway. Just going to, even if we go to outdoor markets and we're just grabbing food, I just love watching and panning the room and seeing the chaos or the stuff that's a lot like we experience in the U.S. and just looking for differences and similarities and just kind of picking them out and just logging into my brain. But so in a chair, if there's an active barbershop and there's people behind us and there's multi-generational where you got a grandfather type with a kid, just watching that interaction and just kind of just understanding it just helps give a little light into what those cultures are like, because a barbershop can teach you a lot. It really can. And being in a situation like that, even if we're not speaking, I can still learn. You know what I mean? I can still learn from the situation I'm in.
So you talk about markets, and here in the U.S., we've kind of lost that. By and large, we've lost the sense of a market. A lot of cities will have farmers markets once a week for a few hours, but by and large, we're not going to the vegetable folks and then over to the butcher shop. And you might go to the butcher shop if you've got a specialty you want, but your grocery shopping is all done in one place, and often in that place is also where you get your pharmacy type stuff. It's also where you get, some grocery stores have a clothing section. You can get everything in one big place where the vendors, are really just cashiers and a couple of stock people around the place. So you don't see them. You rarely talk to anybody else pushing a shopping cart. So what's it like going to markets around the world and seeing so many different vendors and so many different people buying all their different stuff at different shops?
It is the quickest way to get a sense of what the culture is like. It is because it can tell you a lot if you go to, and I guess to paint a picture better for those that have never had an opportunity to experience it, because quite honestly, until I was in my late 30s, mid late 30s, that was the first time I saw it, and it was mind boggling. And it's one of those things that my brother's coming to Vietnam in February. It's one of the first things I can't wait to show him, because it's one of those things that if you've never really traveled outside the U.S. or even if you have, but outside the U.S. is maybe like Cancun or the islands or parts of that, you've never had a chance to really see a market outside of that's in a foreign country. Mm-hmm. They can be chaotic. They can be extremely eye-opening because you got a lot of open air food. A lot of it's like fish that's straight out of the sea, or butchers butchering up meat, and it's hanging there. That's ready to be prepared for you to take it home and cook it right away. But it's very open air, so it's sensory overload, because you got the smells. You're probably seeing animals that you haven't seen before, and you might see them in a bloody way. But they're set up next to the guy that's selling a bunch of T-shirts that say "I love Kuala Lumpur." So you got all these different things going on, and as you walk through, you also get a chance to see how they barter, either barter or they push what they're trying to sell. So India is very in your face. We're trying to sell you. We really want you to buy this. Where like we've seen other markets, Japan, for instance, is very laid back, and it's more inviting for you to come in there to go experience it than them pulling you in. So you get a sense really quick of the culture and how they do things, and then you also understand, is bartering an opportunity? If it's 20, can I go down to 10? Or is 20 closer to 18? Should I be going down to 5? Like, so you have to understand quickly, like, what are these real prices? And then some people might be like, no, dude, we're not bartering here. These are fixed prices. So you have to go with the fixed price. But yeah, markets are amazing, and it's one of the things that we usually look for right off the bat, is where the markets are. But it's like you're saying, it's a plethora of services. I just learned today, and I'm kicking myself because I didn't know this earlier, is that here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, they do barbering in the night markets, but they only do it Wednesday through Sunday. Wednesday through Sunday, and we leave tomorrow. So I'm not going to get a chance to see this. But the barber that I was with today, he said that Wednesday through Sunday, they work from 7 p.m. until 3 a.m. And it's fast haircuts, but it's a chance for them to make a lot of money, because a lot of people are coming in, they're jumping in the chair, they're doing their work under the lights, and they split their money 50-50 with the boss man that owns the little piece of area that they're cutting chairs in. So when you're talking about services, it's not just like food and T-shirts and souvenirs. Now it's like it's getting your hair done, maybe getting your nails done for the women. And then when you're walking the different streets of different parts of the world, you really get a chance to get pulled into these different shops that are along these different side streets. It's my favorite thing to do, man. I can get lost walking these streets and just think. I mean, I use my Google Maps, but I usually just like look at it and then I just go and I just walk and just censor. I don't have the headphones in. I just listen and try to make some sort of eye contact when possible, to maybe drum up a conversation, and then just really see what the cities are all about.
I did an open air. My first experience, I did 20 years in the military. So my first experience with open air market was in Korea. And if you have you been there?
I have not yet. Nope.
Okay. Those open air markets that was real eye opening.
It is.
Half the people are like, though, don't eat in Korea, but wait a minute, there's a lot of live Koreans here, right? So
yeah.
Not killing everybody.
Absolutely.
But the stuff that they had in the markets for food, Americans would be like, no, you can't do that here, and they dress them all up, and it's just like wild. So that was, I'm sure that the rest of Asia is similar to that. So that was quite eye-opening.
It really is, and as you get more comfortable with it, though, the food, man, the food is amazing at those places because you're getting it as close to fresh as possible, really, because it's coming off a boat into a market, and then if you got somebody there who's going to cook it up fresh for you, you got it right there in front of you, and then that's what I've had these debates with some travelers that are more sensitive on their eating. I'm pretty adventurous when it comes to eating, so it doesn't bother me as much. But with some people, they won't even touch that. But I'm like, look, man, if you've never worked in a restaurant industry in the U.S., then you just don't know, because I worked there. I know what goes on in the back of the kitchen in major chain restaurants, and it's not all good. It's not like let's not think like, because Anthony Bourdain even wrote the book, The Kitchen. I think it's called Kitchen Confidential. Kitchen Confidential. But it's a great book, and it gives you insight like what goes on in kitchens. So if you think that like just because we have safety guidelines in the U.S. that it's any better than what you're seeing, that's why I tell them, like, look, we get to look into their kitchen. We see what they're cooking right here. You see what they're mixing, and you have a chance to walk away if you don't think it's clean enough. But if you find a vendor that you're like, okay, they're clean, I like the way that they're cleaning stuff, I like the amount of heat they're using to cook the food, then you decide on it. Where in America, that's all behind closed doors. You don't even know what's going on back there and what kind of rodents are back there and stuff. So for me, it's one of those things where it's a trust factor, and a lot of the food can be amazing. I've had bad food, of course. I've had bad food on the road, but some of the good stuff is really amazing, and price doesn't even matter. It's some of the best food has been super cheap.
Yeah, I had another friend that visited Vietnam, and she came back with incredible stories.
It's amazing. Vietnam is so cheap.
So what are 3 of your favorite meals that you've had with traveling?
So I love Indian food. The Indian food's amazing. The cheese naan, butter naan. I like something about Vietnamese pho, the soup that just opens you up with the spices, and just eating that soup, even if it's hot, and the spices just hit you and clears you out and gives you energy. I really enjoy that. And then I think I like Spanish food. So we were in Alicante, Spain. I'm a big Spanish food guy. And then I guess my staple is probably Mediterranean, like with the mix of like kind of like that Turkish blend with like really good hummus, with pita, with a veggie kebab. We laid over in Doha, Qatar, and we went to a Turkish restaurant there, and man, they took care of us with the big kebabs of vegetables, and they had a little bit of lamb, and the hummus and the baba ganoush. I always screw that one up. But yes, so that's probably my main staple if I had to choose one meal. But the Asian food really grows on you, because the spice level, once you get to once you start tasting their spices, it's it's addictive. If you start tasting regular food, like where's the spice at? Why is my nose running? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to eat hot food until I went to Korea, right? And everything.
Yeah.
And
it changes you too. After you have that, it's like, man, you got to have it spicy.
Love that.
Even here, I'll go to, if we go to a Korean restaurant or a Thai restaurant or something, I'll say, you make it like you would eat it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I regret that.
Oh, I'm sure.
I was good up until I was about 35, and at some point my digestive system started saying, you might want to watch out, bud.
Yeah. I've woken up a few nights where I'm like, man, that really burns still. And I ate that 6 hours ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, when you be careful when you say, I want it Thai hot.
Yeah.
Thai hurt you.
Yeah.
Like even in the U.S. it hurt you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably even worse in the U.S. because then they're trying to get you in a way. Like you don't even know. Yeah.
Well, years ago with this one guy, I had a friend. His name was Animal, is what we called him, and he could find the coolest, dingiest little restaurants in these alleys that I never would have gone down and go like, "You want to go try this?" And for him, if he didn't break out in a cold sweat when he started in a hot sweat when he started the soup, he's like, this is nothing. So it's like, this guy's got sweat pouring over. Oh, that's really good. I'm like, man, I am scared to eat that. It's going to melt the plate.
Yeah. It's real.
Yeah. So, man, it sounds like you're having a really, 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 really great time. Now, have you had any, we've been talking about the great time you've been having.
Yeah.
Have you had any downsides that are worth mentioning?
I mean, some of the downsides. But. No, absolutely. But the downsides are obvious. Friends and family, missing them. We've got a bunch of nieces and nephews that are in their early stages from 0. We actually had one born while we were on the road from 0 to 5. So not being able to get to see them in their really fun years. Being on the road has stunk. Not being part of, like, I came from a big corporate sales world, so I was part of sales teams where we would sell things together, and so having that camaraderie with those folks, and then my buddies. I'm a big guys guy. I mean, that's part of why I started World Barbershop Adventures, because I'm a dude's dude. Like, I like sports, I like drinking bourbon, I like smoking cigars. I like doing guy stuff. So for me not to be around my buddies for this long has not been it's something I really miss, and that's why seeing my buddy last week in Thailand, I cherished that time with him. So those are it's mostly just not being around the people that you want to be around all the time. They just can't be on the road with you. That's probably been the biggest downside. We've had a few weird not run-ins, but weird things where I had to say something to somebody because maybe you could tell they were up to something. We've had some stuff like that, but nothing. Luckily, we haven't, and it might be because I'm extremely positive minded, but we haven't had anything crazy. It was a situation in Galapagos Islands. We were in the Galapagos Islands, which was a bucket list location for us. We had a chance to spend 9 days there, and I got left at sea. We went out on a diving, not diving. I'm a snorkeler, and I'm a bad snorkeler at that. And I'm not afraid either. I'm like, hey, give me a life vest because I'm not trying to die. So, so I take the easy way when I snorkel. But it was a situation where it was rough. It was a rough day. We probably shouldn't even have went out. I think they admitted that later. But we had a bad tour guide. And it's like anywhere else in the world that it's not, I guess, Western where you don't have to sign a waiver, or you don't have to, there's not certain things they have to abide by. So some of it's seat of the pants. And I think that particular day we had an instructor that I don't think he did it often. And we went out into the sea, and we're out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and we're going shark diving or shark spotting around this rock in the middle of off one of these islands. And the waves are rough, and I jump in there. I'm not a great swimmer, and there's about 7 or 8 of us, and we get in the water, and as you're going about, you're looking down trying to see fish, whether they're big sea turtles, sharks. There's all kinds of different sharks you might be able to see, stingrays. There's a bunch of amazing water life that I had a chance to see on different expeditions, not this particular one. But as I'm looking down and I'm looking up, the group's near me, and I'm looking down trying to see fish, and the waves are such that you can't really see much because it's the water's it's too cloudy because there's too much going on. And as I kept looking up, they kept getting further and further away from me. And at one point, I look up, and they're far away from me. And they were making their way to the boat, which was a good amount away from this rock, that I was staying closer to the rock, which I, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have, because I could have gotten closer. When I say rock, it was more like it's probably the size of probably half a football field. And then it was probably 4 or 5 stories high out of the water. It's more like a mini island, but it was definitely a huge rock. But I'm staying near this thing, and as I look up, they're gone. And then I start to try to swim towards the boat, which at this point is about 200 yards from me. And I'm just like, I can't do it. I'm athletic and I'm physically fit, but I'm only an okay swimmer, and I just can't make it. So I'm out there in the middle of the ocean by myself, and the boat is just there chilling, waiting. But what I didn't know is my wife. So Nikki doesn't get in the water. She doesn't like fish. She's kind of scared of that stuff. So she doesn't get in. So she just hangs on the boat and sunbathes and kind of just takes it in. It's an amazing time for her. But she's going off on the boat. She's like, "What are you guys doing? Go get my husband. Like, what? You can't just leave him there." And they're like, "Oh, it just give us time," because they wanted to get everything coordinated before they brought the boat closer to me. And she's like, "No, go now." So she's having this feud. And then there's actually people that were on the boat that were really well travelers and divers and very experienced in this. And they, after everything kind of happened, they basically said, this was not a good situation. These people didn't handle us at all well. But they ended up coming. I ended up spending probably 12 or 15 minutes in a location that we're looking for sharks by myself in the water. So I guess that was probably the craziest thing that happened, one of the craziest things that happened to us. I thought it wasn't like it was funny at the time, but I had like a little GoPro, and I was just like putting the GoPro in the water, just kind of trying to, so later I could see like what was trying to look at me. There wasn't anything near me that was scary, but I could also hear myself on the GoPro cursing to myself about these people that had abandoned me. It was pretty interesting.
Just to tell people how far away from the boat you were. I mean, if you've got a gym in the U.S. and it's got a fairly big lap pool, it's probably 25 yards one way. So it's 4 times each direction. Yeah,
I was out there.
How far away?
Yeah.
Like you were out there in open water.
Yeah, and and I had a life jacket, but the other, in hindsight, when I got mad about later, and it was, at that point it's over, but I was like, man. It was an area where multiple boats. It's not like they were the only boat in the Galapagos Islands that was going to this location on that day. Other boats were going. So just that was probably my biggest potential hazard, was another boat. But yeah, it all turned out well. I guess it's a funny story, but yeah, it's
stories to tell. I mean, apparently, this is evident. You will have stories to tell. Forever. Oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man.
So one of the things that Kelvin and I both enjoy is coffee. And you've been to some places in the world. I don't know if you're a coffee guy, but you've been to some places with a pretty good coffee culture. So I'm wondering if you've got some destinations for us and some coffee-related stories.
We need to build some dreams right now. We got to get out of the U.S.
I am a coffee drinker. Probably 3 cups a day minimum. And so I do and try to enjoy the coffee wherever we are. A local type of coffee. So I guess the ones that stick out are Vietnamese coffee. I'm not sure if you guys ever had that, the way that they put the tin on top and they do it a little bit different. They essentially have like this, it's more like an espresso, if you will, where they have this tiny tin and they've got another tin top to it that has like a filtered hole, and you put the beans, which I've actually, is that Thailand or that might have been Vietnam or Thailand, either one of them. They both have, it was Thailand or Vietnam. They have weasel poop kind of coffee where it's actually comes from the poof of a weasel or something, but it's supposed to be really good. But they have that type of coffee, but they put the beans on top, and then you pour the hot water through the tin into whatever little mug that you're having. But it kind of comes like an espresso style, but it's super strong. It's extremely strong. It really kickstarts your day. So Vietnamese coffee sticks out. And then we've had all kinds of different ways to make coffee, all kinds of different containers. A lot of different European, whether it's the different types of French press. They call it different names. We've seen it called, I think it was called a plunger in South Africa, but it's the same idea of a French press where you push it down to get the beans separated. But yeah, it's been amazing. We were supposed to go to Kenya, and that would have been nice to have Kenya coffee straight from out of Kenya, but there was political turmoil during the month that we were supposed to go there, so we ended up going all the way out to Vietnam. But we were supposed to spend a month there. And then I'm trying to think of some of the other hot spots. We have not been to Colombia yet, but we've been to South America. They had amazing coffee there as well, in Chile and Peru. But yeah, it's definitely, it's not the same. The taste is relatively the same, but the process of making it is really creative in some parts of the world.
Yeah, I was in Israel, and one of our experiences there was to travel for a night with a nomadic tribe. They had set up a tent and were stationary for a couple of weeks. And part of the evening's entertainment was a musical piece where one of the things they were doing as their percussion instruments were actually coffee grinders. So they were tamping down the beans into grounds, as in a vase that would make it sound. And they brewed that, and that was like espresso. And I think none of us, it was a college trip. So, yeah. And this was back before Starbucks and everything was everywhere. So, we weren't all big coffee drinkers yet. And so I think none of us slept for 2 days, but
yeah.
But that was, I remember that being a particularly strong experience. And,
and it's interesting
really involved, because it involved everybody, there you could actually see it happening.
And it's because we're so used to getting large coffees, that most of the world is not. It's mostly smaller. And it's really cool, even like when we were in Italy and Sicily, and you see the stations, the cafe and the coffee houses where it's essentially stand up only, where the people come in, they just stand up at a bar top even, and they just get their order. They put their, whatever it is, a euro or half a euro down, and they get their espresso, they shoot it, and they're back off to their day. And it's kind of a different mentality that we have, where we're like, hey, let's enjoy the coffee and the flavor, and it's more of like it's like a process of drinking it, where they're just like, I just need a jolt of energy, give it to me now, and bang, I'm back to my day.
I'm not sure how I like that. Maybe we'll go try that. All right, Josh, let's figure out where we're going to go to drink coffee.
Okay. Yeah, well, and we both drink it black, so we're
that's
okay
how I
in
drink
Italy.
it.
Yeah. So we're okay in Italy. I hear they make fun of Americans who order milk in their coffee after noon.
Yeah.
So that's cool. All right. So, man, I mean, I'm still trying to conceive of this trip that you're on, and after it's all said and done, I know you said a little while ago that you're not a regrets guy, but after it's all said and done, what is it that you really want to feel? What is it that you really want to say about your experience during this time?
I think it's one of those things in life where I think maybe I won't really know until the final chapter is had and my book closes. But my hope is that whatever this chapter brings, and all the experiences that we go through, and the hopefully it changes me in a positive way. Not that I think we all need to continue to evolve and become better and work to become the best version of ourselves. And my hope is that whatever this experience is, and however long it lasts, that I walk out of it into my next chapter of life, changed for the better, and that that when people see me, that they get a sense of who I am without even understanding my story, if that makes sense. I know that I'm more empathetic now than I was before I left, and I always thought I was an empathetic person, but I wasn't, because I would always have this thing where everybody can do, if you work hard, you can become anything. And I still kind of have that view, but seeing parts of the world, there's challenges ahead of them that we cannot comprehend. And I think I'm more, I understand that a little bit clearer now than I did ignorantly probably 4 or 5 years ago, that I thought that, like, no, if they work hard enough, they can do it. I've seen true hustle. That's the thing, is like I think we throw around the word hustle in America very casually. Mm-hmm. I've seen it real. I understand. I've seen 4-year-old girls in the middle of India selling trinkets on the streets late into the night. And they're running a shop. It's not like their mom might be within the block, but she's not sitting with her doing what she's doing. I mean, it's real. These kids hustle, and they understand hustle early. And I've seen it as old as we were in Ayacucho, Peru. And there's women that roll down wheelbarrows, and they cook food out of the wheelbarrow, and they sell amazing sandwiches that I eat 6 of. They sell them all day long, and it's not like it's not a 4-hour shift; it's a 14-hour shift. So, and they're in their 70s. So and that's the thing, is like, I had a perspective of anything's possible, and you work hard and did it. That's kind of an American dream thing, and I think that's why it's called an American dream, because there's infrastructure and there's things put in place in America that makes it possible. Some parts of the world, it's just, man, some of these people can work as hard as they want and become skillful and savvy, but there's restrictions that are put on them that make it damn near impossible for them to break through. And then when you build the natural disasters and some of the things that affect their lives, it's an extreme uphill battle. So I guess that's a long way to answer your question, that hopefully when after all this is said and done, maybe people see me as maybe a little bit more thoughtful and caring and kinder from this journey. And then maybe maybe I sense that change, and then I continue to build upon it based on everything that I've lived through and the people I've met and the relationships we've built along the way.
Great.
So you're 20 months into a planned roughly 36-month or so journey. Are you starting to see that you're halfway, a little bit more than halfway, and that you're kind of going to have to start thinking about re-entry at some point? Is that on your radar yet?
It's not on our radar yet, because of the where we are in our journey. I think that, so we come back to the States in May, and then we're going to spend the summer in the States hanging out with friends and family, hopefully travel around the U.S. a little bit like we've been doing in other parts of the world. We've got some pockets of the U.S. that we want to spend time with people. And then we're going to go back out on the road for another 9 months or so. But it'll probably be, so May 2020 is when the budget's due to run out. And based on that, it'll probably be around December, January of next year, where we really start to say, okay, what is it? What are we trying to do? What's this next chapter look like for each of us? And then plan accordingly with that, whether it's re-entering where we left off, or it's trying to build the next chapter. But at the same time, we are working on other things now that could create a cushion monetarily, but could also maybe open a door as well when you're talking about the creative things we're working on. It's difficult to say, and I've always been kind of open to opportunities as they come our way. I listen to everything that comes my way, and it doesn't. So I don't want to kind of hole in on something that might not be what's that next phase is supposed to look like. So we're trying to stay open, but we keep our skills up. Nikki continues to work on her clinical pharmacist stuff, and she's very passionate in the medical field, and she stays on her continuing education. When I talked about meetups, I meet people, I meet technologists around the world. I continue to study technology. I continue to study ways to better my skills in the business world, in the sales community. So I'm keeping all my contacts in the loop. I'm a good networker, so I keep those folks informed that could help my decision-making process later. But the reality is I have no idea what could come our way based on some of the stuff that we're working on, and I'm going to be open to what it brings, because we're blessed with the ability to be flexible, and we've lived a lifestyle where we had nothing, and that's the coolest thing about our story. I talked about saving that money and starting our journey with a cushion because we worked really hard, and I was successful in my job, she was successful in hers, but at the same time, early in our marriage, we didn't have anything. We had nothing. We were negative, way negative. So we know what it's like to have nothing. And so we're comfortable with that. And the reality is the way that we live now is like we don't have anything, because we can live. At Kuala Lumpur, man, we're eating for, probably $14 a day, and we're staying in an Airbnb. So we don't need a lot, which gives us, and I guess that's part of the message, that the less you have, the more you can do. Like the less things that the world is telling you need. And I don't want to get down this whole minimalization focus, but that's what gave us our flexibility, is the fact that we've never been one that needs a lot of things, but we value experiences, and we want to get a lot out of life. And so I think that's going to help us be extremely flexible in the future, that when it's time to make these decisions on what's next, we're not going to have to make them based on we need to make X amount of money. It's more of, hey, we need to make money, but we don't need to make a lot of money. So how flexible can we be on, let's make sure that we're extremely happy in this next chapter, that we're fulfilled doing what we want to do.
Awesome. Love that.
Did you have to learn a lot of logistics type stuff, like how do you handle banking and transferring money and currency swapping, that kind of stuff? And how do you get around in different countries? Like, what's the learning curve like on that stuff?
So the biggest, I guess, a great tip for your listeners is if you're traveling internationally, get a Charles Schwab account. We tell this often. It is the best account to have, because when you pull money out of the ATM, you don't get charged fees. And if you get charged a fee at the end of the month, they give you all the money back. So when it comes from currency, from a money's perspective, I've kind of always done our financials within our family here. So I had to rebalance a lot of money before we left, just from a security standpoint. You don't want all your money sitting in the same place. Right. So I handled all that before we hit the road. But Charles Schwab is how we pull out our money, because it's free. It's 100% free. And it's actually we were in the Galapagos Islands again. We were on a boat in the Galapagos Islands, and I met one of the VPs in Charles Schwab, and I was like, dude, thank you so much for having an amazing ATM policy. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, your ATM's internationally, no fees. He didn't even know it. And I was just like, I was like, I said, I don't know how you guys do this, but please keep doing it, because it is amazing. We've probably gotten back. We've been traveling for 20 months. We're very cash heavy, because sadly I can't use a lot of credit cards, because I could have got a lot of points for different stuff. But we've seen credit card activity. We've seen how credit cards get stolen on the road. So we've avoided it. We've actually saw in Santiago, Chile, we saw a hacker with a laptop at a restaurant stealing credit cards. We saw it firsthand. So we know it's real. It is out there. So we use mostly cash. So it has saved us thousands of dollars on the road. Because
it's probably also saved you bartering too, because
100%.
You know,
cash is king. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're paying 18, 20, 25% in credit card transaction fees.
Yes. Yeah. And when you pull out ATM, you're getting the best, because I've checked it over, because I always thought Schwab was getting us because they were giving us an unfair exchange rate, but it's not the case. They give you a great exchange rate as well. So I pulled out the ATM at the proper exchange rates, and I'm not hurt in any way. And then from the logistics standpoint, as far as like hotels, transportation, and all that, I guess it's a skill I've always brought to the table. I've probably crafted over time. As a sales professional, my main job really was facilitating fun with my clients and making sure they had a good time. So it was a lot of, hey, let's meet at this restaurant at this time. And then I'd get there early and talk to the right people and say, hey, I know this guy likes this. Make sure you bring it over, and things like that. So I've always been really good at coordination and making sure things are smooth through timing and things like that. Because I've done it for so long that it's kind of second nature at this point. So all that coordinated, that kind of falls on my plate. And then Nikki's great with understanding where we want to stay, what neighborhoods are the ideal neighborhoods for us to take in the most stuff. She's great at finding us accommodations, and we just team up that way. She knows I'm going to handle all the flights and transportation. I know that she's going to make sure that we're in the right neighborhoods.
Good stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good teamwork.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Good teamwork. Well, excellent. Oh man. The whole thing is just so incredible to me. And I'm like, so now you're making me think about minimalism and if I didn't want to eat in Korea, but I might have to do it when I go to Vietnam. And you're writing the marriage book on, so
yeah.
We got it all here. I don't know. This is a question that Josh normally asks, but what is it we haven't asked you that you wanted to tell us so far?
That's a good question. I think you covered it. I'll tell you this. I guess it's something that I've learned that I was not really aware of. I guess I kind of knew it, but I didn't know it at this level. Mm-hmm. Is the effect and the power of American culture, and whether it's our music, our movies, our celebrities, it is our most powerful thing as a country. And I had no idea it was as strong as it was. I knew it was big, but to go in some of the smallest towns around the world and to jump into a cab and they're listening to American music, it's been overwhelming to understand the power of. I guess that's America's superpower is innovation, our ability to be resourceful and think. And the creativity that's coming out of America as far as music and movies and television and the stuff that's on Netflix and because it changes these cultures, it changes the way they talk. I met a kid in it was Nara, Japan. He had a hip hop shop and he was wearing a Tupac shirt. He had his hat. He had the hat like to the right. I think he was even wearing like a headband. And I knew that this dude, like he got all of this from YouTube or movies, or because I talked to him. Mm-hmm. I was like, "Hey, buddy, I love your shop because I want to get a really cool hip hop, it was like a hip hop T-shirt shop." Mm-hmm. And I went in there and I was like, dude, I love your shirts, because he had like these old Biggie Small shirts and he just had all these like old hip hop stuff. And I started talking to him, and I was like getting to know like how he started the shop and all this stuff. But I could tell because he told me he'd never been to America, but he's so influenced on the culture that I saw this guy, like, because his shop was right on the corner from our hostel that we were staying at, and I saw him 3 different times, and every time he was dressed in extreme hip hop wear, and I was just like, man, he's living like a kid that lives in LA, but he's here in Nara, Japan, and that's that our culture extends that far. And it was amazing to see that. And he's just one example that I've seen it so many times that it's been remarkable to know now the power of the internet. Our culture is looked at with the highest regard, and they try to imitate it everywhere around the world. And they watch us. They watch what we're doing. They understand our culture very deep. But at the same time, when it comes to sports, things that I'm very passionate about, like sports and when you talk about like NFL and the NBA, people don't care as much. So the stuff that I thought was important isn't as important, because when I was in South Africa trying to find the Super Bowl, I couldn't find it. Nobody even cared. Like, I had to stream it through my I had to hotspot my phone and stream it through my laptop because I couldn't get anywhere, because nobody even cared about it. And it's unless you're in a town that's catering towards Westerners, they're not going to show NFL games. Where I thought, like, no, everybody likes the NFL. Nobody cares about the NFL. I mean, soccer around the world, that's a sport. Soccer is the sport around the globe. But when it came to the NFL, it's something that they don't care as much about. But when it comes to music, movies, and television, man, they know what's going on all around the world, what's happening in America.
Wow, that's cool. Also potentially scary.
Yeah.
So hey, creators, watch what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
Also potentially scary because I wouldn't have expected that we had that kind of effect around the world. I don't necessarily see that on the news, but come to think of it, I've looked at some recently. I've looked at some Japanese music and some Korean music, and yeah, I see that in the music there, but I'm not thinking of it because I'm here, so it's like, okay, I'm like, oh, well, that looks like us. But from your perspective, you're like out there, like in the other world, so that's a whole different that's a whole different perspective. So
we had some
it's interesting.
We had some Chinese students in my grad school class, and they came over for the first time. They thought everything was going to be like Friends.
That's fantastic. Oh, that's fantastic.
Awesome.
So, Matt, where do you want people to find you online? Where do you hang out the most?
Yeah, so passportjoy.com is the easiest way. All my socials are on there. All Nikki's socials are on there. And that'll give you the gateway to our podcast. That'll give you the gateway to World Barbershop Adventures. That's passportjoy.com is the easiest spot to find us.
Great. And we'll have a link to that and to the YouTube stuff and to your Instagrams and the show notes and everything.
Cool.
Right. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, and love your insights, and just some of us who even think we got it going on, just stuff we don't know. This has been, and I'm gonna be honest with you. When Josh told me we were interviewing you, and I'm like, so what's a big deal about a guy who's going around the world getting haircuts in different places? So like, what's the deal? And I see what the deal is now. And you know what? I'm glad we interviewed you. You've been an enlightening conversation. Seem to be one incredible human being, and you get along with your wife in real close spots for a long time, and write the wedding book. I mean, send me that. Send me the drafts. I'll just take the drafts.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Thank you, man. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you very much for showing up with us.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
I'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Best of luck.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye.
A Better Humanhood production.